welcome everybody to this Access Consciousness Facebook Live. I'm so excited to have you here. Today, this is Entity Education number 4. And I picked this topic last week and I'm kind of like, why did I pick that topic? But we'll see where we go and what we do and what we create. But it's called Entities in Food, which I'm like, that's oddly specific. But I think that I do have some things I want to say, and we can also talk around it and talk about our bodies. I have hiccups, speaking of our bodies. So basically, how are you aware of entities? And what does that create with your bodies, your mental health, and your eating patterns? Okay, so basically what it comes down to is you want to be aware of when something is yours and when something is a ghost's or an entity. But I like to say ghosts because I think it's a funny word. And they are ghosts. But it's like when you actually are aware of entities or ghosts, it creates this place where oftentimes instead of trusting your own awareness and getting what's true for you, you will trust the entity's awareness over yours. So, and this doesn't just go for entities. This goes for all thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I mean, how many of you have gone into a room and been super aware of people in the room who were upset? I recently, this was very interesting for me. I was away at a class and I sat down at a table next to a group of people and I was extremely uncomfortable, felt uncomfortable, awkward, less than, super weird. And they were the table over from me, but I almost felt wrong for sitting next to them. And I did know these people, friends, acquaintances, and I went, what is going on? This is so not me. Well, what I realized was I looked and I went, oh, is that person really uncomfortable? And I got a yes, and then it started to dissipate. And then 3 weeks later, I found out that 2 of the people at that table were getting divorced. And that was about the time when they would have chosen to get divorced. So it was this very interesting thing where I thought that I was less than or bad or wrong, but I was actually just aware of other people who were going through their own difficulties. So, and I went, oh, I love awareness. And I actually didn't sit with it either. Like that day I had enough access consciousness tools and enough potency behind my who does this belong to realize that wasn't actually mine. So, and there's a new concept for that in Access called plagiarizing. Have any of you ever heard of plagiarizing? Most of you probably sum that up to like university, like you don't want to plagiarize your paper in university. But we actually plagiarize other people's realities. And so it's like anywhere that you're not being you or uniquely creating, you're actually plagiarizing somebody else's reality. And people will project that you have to plagiarize. They will project that, like family will project that your past should go into your present. Not that you can't change, not that you should be able to change on a dime. They'll, friends or family, like people that are very familiar with you don't want you to change because they like you the way that you are, however you are. And it's like, what I ask for is to have people in my life who celebrate when I change, who have no point of view when I change, and who invite me to change. And so that's really who I'm surrounded by in my life, is not people who try to keep me the same, but people who have no point of view about me changing and in fact celebrate the changes. Vivian says there's this fair I go to in BK, where every time I go, I feel so insecure, and I am aware it's not mine, but it is whenever I go there. Exactly. And it's like, we realize that this stuff doesn't belong to us, like none of it. So everything you're doing to plagiarize other people's limited realities rather than create your own unique reality beyond this reality, will you revoke, recant, rescind, reclaim, renounce, denounce, destroy, and uncreate that? Excuse me. Right, wrong, good, bad, online, pod, poc, shorts, boys, povids, and beyonds. Cool. So there's that. So where are you plagiarizing entities' realities? And one of the places that we really tend to do this is with food. This isn't something that I've dealt with a ton. For me, it's been more plagiarizing other people's reality with regards to food, people who have bodies. And I really changed this by asking, okay, body, what would you like to have as the future? Like, what do you desire, body? Because I really acknowledge that my body is a conscious organism that is actually more conscious than my mind. And we use our minds to create our bodies, but that's not a good idea. That doesn't actually work. So I use the access consciousness tools and go, body, what is the future that you want to have? And my body actually got like a weird infection where I had to stop eating so much. And I was actually eating to a degree that was not what my body wanted. And I got a weird infection. And so I had to go on this crazy diet that actually showed me that I don't need that much food to eat. And it showed me the kind of food that makes my body happy. And I also broke my addiction to sugar, which was crazy for me because I was like a sugar fiend, a sugar addict. Now, that's not going to be for everybody else, but I am just telling you my story just sort of to illustrate like kind of what's possible. But it took me 2 months of craving sugar, of not having sugar and craving sugar every single day for 2 months before I stopped craving sugar. And now sugar for me is like an interesting point of view rather than like just not a good reality for me. Like it was just so much. And my body was putting on excess weight and I was just feeling slow and sluggish and had so much brain fog. And so I actually had to make a different choice. But I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go on this diet. I was like, body, what would you like to have as a future? What would you like the future to be like? And my body's like, I'm going to give you this infection because it's the only way that you are going to listen. And it was. And I did have to listen. And it was hard. I could have done it a much easier way, but I didn't choose to do that. But am I grateful that everything has changed in that area? Absolutely. It changed the way I cook. It changed the way like I juice now. I stopped drinking coffee. I stopped eating sugar except for like as a choice, never as a craving. It transformed everything. So, and you don't have to cut those things out, but sometimes something kind of dramatic has to be done in order to like stop being led by the cravings rather than by your body's desires. So where are those cravings coming from? A lot of those cravings are you being aware of other people's cravings and other entities' cravings. Like Shannon O'Hara will talk about how she is Jewish and she has this affinity with Jewish entities, and she was eating for starving Jewish Holocaust entities. And she was eating and eating and eating, and she realized that she was trying to eat for them because she cared for them. So it's like you've got to look at like where are these energies coming from? What's really going on? And are you eating for other people? Are you craving for other people? Are you eating for other entities? And are you having cravings for other entities? Parisa says, can you talk about asking your body what it would like to eat and getting different answers, or just a jumbled sense of blah? Currently going through that. Yeah, I mean, there's an access consciousness sort of diet that Gary recommends. And also, Parisa, like, you really do have to, and I know Gary told you this in the advanced body class too, like, you have to ask whose cravings these are and be really diligent with that. And it could take years for that to actually settle into your universe. So I would keep working with that. Don't expect that that's something that's going to change in 4 or 5 months' time. It might take longer than that. Some of these tools are for the long run, especially these things that really kind of get us. And then the other thing is that there's an access consciousness diet, which is kind of funny. It's not really an access diet. And you're not supposed to do it for more than a month. I did it for 6 months and I started losing my hair because I wasn't getting the nutrients that I needed. This was before any of this other stuff happened, but my body did ask to go on this access diet. So it's basically where you just eat, like, you don't eat any meats, like bread or gluten or corn or like potato chips, but you eat like, there's no gluten, like starchy stuff. There's no meats, and what's the other food group? And no dairy. So you basically eat like nuts, fruits, seeds, kind of like a squirrel. And that will start to give you a sense of what your body wants. So ask your body if it would like to do that. There's not really any place where Parisa is asking, where can I find more info on that? There's no place. It's like buried in like some old 7-day from a long time ago. But don't do it for more than a month, unless, I mean, I did it. You could do it for like 3 or 4 months, I guess. But like, I lost my hair. I was like, why is my hair falling out? Oh, okay, it's time to eat protein again. That's not just from like nuts. But it was amazing. It really did set the stage for me to realize that I could change my eating and that I could listen to my body. And through that time, I still drank coffee. And you can have little cheats, like I had cream in my coffee, things like that. I had goat cheese or blue cheese on my salad if they like served it with it, you know? But it really like scaled me back from like living based on other people's addictions to food, rather than like my joy of having a body. And now it's a lot more about my joy of having a body, because it's like I don't have to eat that ice cream. I don't have to eat for somebody else. I don't feel obligated to eat the cookies or like, you know, and it's really easy, like once you start eating that way, to like make it work. You just make it work. I travel everywhere and whatever, and I just make it work. But now I'm kind of stabilized and eating based on choice again. I mean, that was a choice, but it just, for me, it really had to be drastic. And I don't know if Gary would tell you that, but it's like you have to make sometimes you have to make a big change and really change your choices. You can also study, the Candida diet. There's a book about that called The Candida Cure by Anne Borick. That's really interesting. And then, yeah, the diet that Gary and Access have suggested is basically like, when I did it, I did eat sugar, because cutting out, for me at that time, cutting out carbs, meat, and dairy was enough. I couldn't even fathom cutting out sugar at that time. And that's okay. And so I did that, but it gave me this new sense that I could live without certain things And it's not about going without either. I'm not trying to like give you this place where you like become some sort of like nobody, you can't have that like aesthetic monk. But just the vast change. I remember Gary saying like, he's like, I knew I needed to change my life. And so anything that felt like a change, I would do. So he just did whatever felt like a change. And like for me, that was the same thing with, hey Alexa, hey everybody, welcome. But like, that's what I knew I had to do. Like I just had to make a vast change. Because of this, like because my body was so infected. And so I didn't give myself a place where I had a choice. It was beyond choice. It was like, I have to do this. Doctors couldn't help me, whatever. So I made the change and I'm so grateful that I did. The other thing that's really interesting that I've been reading about a lot lately is parasite cleansing. And it's very interesting. Farmers actually used to cleanse their families because like on a farm you have like kind of like the chance for disease, I guess, but like parasite cleansing is also very interesting, and I've been doing that too lately. And like I take something called mimosa pudica seed. I get it on Amazon. It's like I get organic mimosa pudica seed. It's like mimosa, like what you drink in the morning, and pudica is spelled Pudica, mimosa pudica seed. And it's amazing. It actually like deworms you. And basically, even if you have never traveled out of your country, like I watch this guy's YouTube videos and he's like, we all have worms. And he's like, we live in an increasingly toxic environment. And like so many people have worms. And like that really rang true for me. And I started doing the parasite cleansing and like just absolutely love it and feel so much better. So you can also do like parasite cleansing is a thing. Gary would probably like not like me for like saying all this because it's like you actually do need to change the energy too. But it's like these are things that I did where I changed the energy, I asked questions, and then these things showed up. Okay, I need to do this diet. I need to actually cleanse parasites. I need to actually look at like yeast. I need to look at how much my like sugar, like getting actually present with all of that rather than just like, I'm hungry, somebody else is craving, not even realizing it's somebody else's craving, nom, 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 nom. But what I really invite you to do is also clear the emotional and literal POVIDs. Now, what are the emotional and literal POVIDs? It's everywhere you're defending and avoiding having a body at the same time, or defending and avoiding money at the same time. Right now, I'm doing 100 times a day of these clearings. Like I literally run them out loud. I'm not even on a loop. I run them out loud or in my head. Like I actively run them because that's so much more powerful than listening to a clearing loop. It's so much more powerful. Thanks, Alexa. Alexa says, thanks for sharing, Julia. Yeah, it's like, it's so much more powerful than a clearing loop. And I also loop. I do clearing loops. I have 3 clearing loops on because my tolerance is really high because I do a lot of clearing and I can like facilitate classes for like days and days and days because I've done so much access. And it's important to me to have a really high tolerance to lifting the weights of clearing unconsciousness. So I have a really high tolerance. Like what I can do would like wipe most people out. But I went, you know what? I'm not going to get wiped out. I'm going to be fucking strong. So I can like facilitate for days and days and days and then take like a 7-day class and like whatever. And my body does get tired and it does tell me when it needs to rest. But I also have worked up to a really high tolerance of facilitating unconsciousness. So, that being said, I highly recommend working with the clearing, and it's basically how many emotional POVIDs and how many literal POVIDs am I using to create the hatred of having a body I am choosing. Revoke, recant, rescind, reclaim, renounce, denounce, destroy, and uncreate it all times a godzillion. right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Because if you're not having fun with your body, if you don't wake up in the morning and go, God, I'm so fabulous and beautiful, and like, what do I get to do today, body? Then you hate having a body. So you need to work on that, and you need to clear that. Okay? It's really important to clear hating having a body. Like for me, body hasn't been as hard for me. Money is something that's been really hard for me. So I had to work on clearing hating money. And as I cleared it, I just didn't have a point of view about it anymore. I was like, whatever, have it, don't have it. And then from there, there's more space to receive more money. And you need to do that with your body if body is an area that's difficult for you. Because if you're not having fun with it, you hate having one. And that's it. That's all it comes down to. Parisa says, thank you so much. This is all very helpful. Fantastic. Anne says, wow, this explains why some clearing loops are still heavy on me. Thanks, Julia. Yeah. Some of these things guys, some of this stuff is a lot of work. This is not like, I'm going to do this for 3 months and I'm done for the most part. It's like, you've got to really do it. And I worked on money for a decade before it really started to change. Okay? You may have to, and it will go faster for you because consciousness is stronger. And you are stronger, and we are stronger because there are so many people living in consciousness. I think there's like over 1 million people in consciousness now. Whereas like 5 years ago, there was less than 10,000. It just exponentializes. So it's like things are cleaner, faster, more powerful. So it's like, awesome. Use that. Okay, but and I can't really like type the clearings in the chat here. If somebody like wrote it down and wants to put in the chat, awesome. And if you want it, like, I will put it in the chat. Let me make a note because I'll forget. Put emotional poved clearing in chat. Yeah, and I just love this guy with the parasites too. He was so interesting. I'll put the parasite guy but you can't link that on Instagram. I'll put it in my Instagram bio. His name is like instead of linking it, I'll just put it in the comments. His name's Dr. J. Davidson. And he is a chiropractor from like Minneapolis or Wisconsin or like somewhere in the north of America. But yeah, it's like, and parasites like don't even show up on stool samples. Even if you like have a poop sample, it won't show up. He was saying like, they live in your stomach and your small intestines. And like, if you have like a tummy ache or you're constipated or you're bloated or like, there's just so much that's linked to parasites. And I just think it's really interesting, and it might not be for you, but just ask. 'Cause it's just changed so much for me. But really guys, I really invite you to run these emotional and literal COVID clearings on whatever area of your life is not working. And so this is entity education, and like we've actually talked more about like parasites and other kinds of entities rather than but I do want to reiterate, like, you've got to look at whose cravings. We don't need like a huge amount of the food that we eat. Food should actually be used as a homeopathic to like release energies. And when I like stopped eating all these different food groups and then started reintroducing them, like I would have like, oh, you know what else parasites cause? A dairy allergy. Because like parasites love dairy. So if you like have dairy, it like the parasites get so excited and create this like huge allergic reaction and like puffy eyes and like runny nose and stuff, which is really interesting. So just different things out there, but check out Dr. J. Davidson because he was really interesting for me. I loved listening to him. I was like totally riveted by what he was saying. But like with entities, it's like you've got to look at who am I eating for? Like, and like, body, do you actually want this? Oh, and I was saying, like, as I was reintroducing different foods back in, I would get sick if I would have more than a bite. So I like started getting used to just having a bite of things. Like, and luckily my family is really nice at sharing. So like if somebody got ice cream, I would have like a bite of ice cream. But because I had like completely cleansed myself off of sugar and didn't like have that, and like sustainably over months totally broke my sugar cravings, like, and I ate that ice cream, like that one bite, that one spoonful was like, what? Like my cells were like, this is like a wild ride. And that was enough. And it was fun to eat one bite, but like one bite equaled what would, like one bite was equally as satisfying as like a whole large ice cream, which is what I so would have eaten before. So it's like my body became like more subtle, more home. It used the food homeopathically the way that it's intended to. Gracie says, who am I eating for? Body, do you actually desire this? Thank you, Gracie. That's wonderful. Awesome. So that's where I'll finish today. I also want to invite you guys, if you want to learn more about entities, I am doing the coolest class ever on Friday, I think. Yeah, because today's Wednesday. It starts on Friday. It is Talk to the Entities intro night. So if you just want to come, like, I throw a mean intro night, and you can just, I think it's like $75 with global pricing. Just come listen to the intro, and like, I'll give you a whole different world about entities, a whole different life and reality around entities. And then if you want to dive in deeper, I'm doing a 8-part series. I'm doing Talk to the Entities beginning class as a telecall, an hour and a half every day. So I invite you guys to that too. It's a wild education and a wild ride. And it's the prerequisite that you need to take Talk to the Entities Intermediate and Talk to the Entities Advanced with Shannon. So I invite you guys to play. It's a wacky, wild world. And you have to really acknowledge that you are so different in order to play in it, and like acknowledge the ghosts that you're aware of, the entities, and the gift that you are. So I hope this was helpful to you. Sort of a crash course in my eating habits and how they've changed in the last couple of years. I'm really grateful for how they've changed. I can't even imagine going back to what I was doing before. And I'll post the links to the clearing that I recommend, and I will also post the Parasite dude, Dr. J. Davidson. So how does it get better? We'll see you guys next time, and what else is possible. Bye-bye.